He's got bottle him, and he.
Right, welcome back everyone to Between the Ropes. I've been gone that long, but the channel's actually changed since I've actually been here. So yeah, today we're going to be previewing the whole of Fight Camp as a whole, and there's a minor factor to get through, but before doing so, but first let's obviously introduce the lads from Last Bell Boxing. Carl and Ray, great to have you guys on.
Very much.
Yeah, it's nice to see that you're actually blocking Zucan behind you, Scott. I think that's quite apt.
Yeah, I've obviously, for those that haven't watched before, I am due to apologise to Carl. I came in the comments on one of their streams and said, if Leigh Wood did beat Zucan, I would apologise. And to be fair to Carl, he did get everything right. Carl, you predicted that he was going to run through him. You predicted that he was going to be too powerful. So, it's a rightful apology to that. But
I sorted it out as well.
The main person that should be apologising here is this man's management team and this man's trainer. After 17 months out the ring, you throw him
Hold on a minute, Scott. Scott.
He's still a full Conor McGregor there, isn't he?
I appreciate that I'm on your platform, so I gave you a certain amount of respect by letting you go into your opening gambit. However, was that an apology or was it an excuse?
I mean,
you cut him off.
Have I been brought on under false pretenses?
That's an apology. What do you want me to do?
Let me just quote before we carry on. Let me just quote some of the things that you said in that sidebar.
He's got them all written down, hasn't he?
So I start us off, finish, Scott. Zoo will wear him down gradually. Will be late on, but will eventually win by KO. Wrong. Leigh Wood has no chance. Very overhyped. This is a bit of a pun that I think you're trying to pull off. Can Zoo go into floor him and he won't get another chance? Honest opinion, don't think he's got a chance. Zoo will outclass him in every aspect.
I didn't realise he put so much.
It gets better than that. Doesn't matter if he's boxing on the front, back foot or flying through the air. He won't be good enough to stop the Zoo. And the final one, which you've not come through on, I might add, if he wins, I'll come on just to apologise to you all. But again, a poor pun.
Boom.
That won't happen. So when are you coming on to Last Bell then, Scott?
I mean, look, I could come on to Last Bell to do a second apology as well if you really want.
Well, to be fair, I think we thought, Carl, we'd invite you onto ours. Get you could argue, superior knowledge over Scott on this occasion. Get you on, we'd give you the hospitality, and he's made his apology.
Well, Josh, I would counter that. There was another member of Last Bell Boxing who's not on the show who was as vocal as I was, as in Andy.
Yeah, he was.
So I would suggest, as you put in the sidebar, the only thing that might come true from your predictions is that you actually get your backside onto Last Bell.
Carl, let's ask you a question on that because, obviously Leigh Wood, he's apparently signed. Well, he has signed to Matchroom today. Do you not think he owes Zucan the rematch? I mean, for me personally, if he doesn't give him the rematch, he's a chicken. He really is. That's the word you might as well put him in a costume and get him to Standout KFC or something. Because if he,
the problem is, Scott.
I've heard him talking about wanting other champions, and I'm thinking, you beat Zucanu. It was his first fight in 17 months. And look, I am not saying that Leigh Wood would not beat him the second time round, but I want to see them two go at it when it's a fully prepared, fully fit. Let Zucan have a couple of bouts. Get himself that time in the ring again, and let's.
So what does Leigh Wood do? Sit around then. What does Leigh Wood do while Zucan gets these couple of warm-up fights? Does he sit around?
Fight. Well, I mean, he could do those.
Answer on the postcard, Scott. Answer on the postcard.
He's answering.
He could do it against the, let's say easy opponents, just to get those rounds in. I mean, we've seen lots of boxers throughout this fight camp do that. This fight camp, and there's no reason that there couldn't be another bout towards the end of the year, in my opinion. I mean, look, if Leigh Woods wants to go out in the meantime, fight another world champion, bring another title to the occasion, then all good. But I expect Scott, to honour a rematch.
But Scott, we're in mid-August now, and you're talking about him fighting again before the end of the year. So where's Zucan going to fit this warm-up fight in?
If it's an easy fight, why can't he do it in end October? Get the fight on just before Christmas,
and then jumps in with Leigh Wood again.
See, I would like to see the rematch. I do think it. I think it's needed, isn't it? Because there is people out there saying Zucan didn't turn up because he's been.
Ben, I'm glad you took the floor. Ben, I'm glad you took the floor because Scott's credibility is shot. So,
no. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, however they want to put it across. And
let's see Ray, what do you reckon? Go on, we'll throw it over to yourself, mate.
Well, the rematch is in the contract, isn't it? So
it is.
It's gonna happen, which whatever way we debate. I suppose it's a case of where that fight's going to take place. Is it going to be in the City Ground or is it going to be in America?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want another Fury Wilder situation, do we? We don't want it to drag on or.
But I think what you got to remember with fighters is it wasn't as though Zucan wasn't preparing for a fight and he got the call out the blue. He was preparing for a fight. Golden Boy had opponents lined up for him, but for whatever reason they didn't materialize. So he was in camp, he had been sparring, he'd been ticking over for a long period of time, and then he ran into Leigh Wood, who had also been preparing. If anything, it was Leigh Wood that got the spontaneous phone call.
6 weeks.
See, I predicted Leigh Wood would win it as well, but I've got to be fair. And not that it's an excuse, but I do think there probably was an element of Kanju and his team underestimating Leigh Wood. I've got to be honest.
You're probably right. I just feel personally his whole management team have mismanaged him his whole career. I mean, you look at it. He's had 3 losses, and 2 of those came in his first 5 fights. Zucan's just really been mismanaged. And at the end of the day, I completely agree with you, lads. It isn't Zucan. It's not Leigh Wood's fault that fight was made, but I think his management team, Zucan's management team, did him a bit dirty to throw him in when they did.
So, are we not giving Leigh Wood any credit then? Are we calling it ring rust?
Well, no. To be fair, in my apology, I literally said that, you got it right. You got it right. He did. He come with the power. He came with the aggression that you said he was going to do. And let's face it, I predicted a stoppage, and it was a completely wrong way around, weren't it? So look, Carl, I'll give you that.
Boxed him as well. He stopped Zucan working. I don't think people are considering that as well. He actually stopped him working. I said he'd be too strong for him. And he was. He made Zucan look one-dimensional. So for me, I can't see how the rematch goes anywhere different because Zucan hasn't done anything in his 22 or 21 fights that he had. He's fought the same way, and he's going to fight the same way in a rematch.
Yeah, I mean, just touch on that rematch clause. The likelihood is that he's going to activate that rematch clause. He's got nowhere else to go, has he? Let's be honest, Zucan. He's got nowhere else to go. So the likelihood is, I can see that fight happening in the States. I think it'll be the next run out for both fighters, and I think it'll be December time.
It'd be good to boost his profile in the States, though, wouldn't it, Leigh Wood?
Do I think Zucan will be a better version of Zucan? Yes, I do, because he'll be motivated to win his belt back. Yeah. But I just think Leigh Wood may well be his kryptonite. Sometimes fighters just have that one fighter who's just got their number.
Man. Yeah.
And I think Leigh Wood may have his number.
Do you see there's any way that Zucan can beat Leigh? Do you see the way of Leigh Wood winning or losing, or do you think he wins all the time?
Of course. If we get the Zucan, sorry, Ray. If we get the Zucan who has a punch output that we've seen in previous fights, then obviously being out in the States and being promoted by Golden Boy, I'll let you lot join the dots up. but I just get a feeling Leigh Wood won't allow him to start having the punch out. But obviously something happened over at Matchroom HQ where either it was the power he felt, so he didn't want to open up because what might come back. Something happened in that fight. I'm not sure it can change in the rematch.
No, I think it is the power, but I think you can't. I know we're having a bit of a laugh and a joke about it, but you can't take anything away from Leigh Wood's performance. But I do think, as you just alluded to, Carl, if it happens in the States, I think Leigh Wood's got to knock him out to win. That was just, you don't get the decisions over there. And I'm not saying he can't do that. Obviously, he's done it once already, but I do think it'd be a risky fight for him to go over to the States with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, should we move on to the the talking about fight camp in general? Then, I mean, obviously, Ben, let's start with yourself, mate. Let's get you involved in terms of fight camp. We're going to talk a bit about in general what was good, what was bad about it. So, Ben, mate, what was the main thing you thought was good about the fight camp experience?
Me personally, I just thought what the best part for me was they pushed people's careers forward. There wasn't loads of 50-50 fights. I think most of them were predictable. But nonetheless, I think it's pushed a lot of them forward to bigger fights now, like Josh Buatsi, Joe Cordina, Kid Galahad. They're all going forward in their careers now. And then you got to see youngsters like Hopi Price and Campbell Hatton progress as well. And I think that was the best thing. And then, but I wish there was more. What was that? Sorry.
What are your thoughts? I'm not taking over here, Scott, but I thought I'd ask a decent question for once.
No, go. Feel free.
Ben, what were your thoughts on Eddie Hearn's comments about he wants to make the crowds bigger and turn it into a kind of festival?
Yeah.
Well, we were going to get to that point. Like, so we might get there. No, it's fine. But
you've not let me see the script, so sorry about that, guys.
No, there's no script, but you just kind of know the guidelines. But no, I don't like it personally. I want it to stay in the garden. I know they're saying it's expensive, but that's what you're paying for. I don't think the festival feel for me. I think HQ. I like it small, intimate, and I wouldn't change it personally.
It's not very accessible.
On that, then let's jump into that.
Yeah, it's not very accessible for the average working boxing fan, though, is it, Ben?
No, it wasn't advertised that way.
No, Eddie Hearn said that from day one. It was never designed to be accessible to the average fan. And to be fair, I do understand where fans were coming from with saying 750 quid a ticket. I can't go to that. But, when there's only 250 tickets, if you look at the costs that would be involved in all that, they had food stalls there. It's all included. Let's be honest. If we've done it. You go for a night at the boxing, you'll do 100 quid in beer, won't you? Plus food. And so in fairness to them, I think they can actually, they can justify the price. I mean, if you think, not going back to it, but if you'd have been there to watch Leigh Wood or Kid Galahad win their world titles, sat that close to the action like you were, I think you're looking back at it as a proper boxing fan in a few years' time, thinking that was money well spent, personally.
Do you think it's a better spectacle to watch on TV, though, should there be more crowd? Do you think that's where Earn's coming from an overall product perspective?
No, definitely. Well, he did say as well, doesn't he? Obviously, if it's at a bigger venue, he can make the tickets cheaper and it can make it more accessible. But personally, I think, a lot of the appeal is actually that it's in Matchroom HQ's back garden. And I really do think that's a lot of the appeal.
Ray, what are your thoughts on it? Are you do you like the idea of it, or?
I think the best thing for me is the whole bubble thing. I thought that was really, really interesting. Yeah. Particularly, I keep going back to the two funny things for me: Shane McGuigan and Carl Frampton in the elevator, and then Shannon Courtney and Ebony Bridges. I like those sort of backstage altercation sort of things. Yeah, that just make it more interesting in a whole bubble situation, because it'll remind us of what we went through with COVID. I thought the matches were poor, to be honest. I thought Fight Camp 3 was by far and away the best card by 6 or 7 country miles. I thought it was poor. So so you could argue that where any fight, what Josh is saying, it's money well spent if you see your fighter win. If when we're going to see Joshua and we're sitting ringside, we'll probably pay about £300 for a ticket, and then when you do all your stuff on top, that's still 400 quid. But to go out there in the garden, I don't know. I guess I'm just expecting more. I was expecting for that amount of money paying, you would get a better card, especially considering that was what the whole purpose of him moving from Sky Sports to DAZN, to give him that freedom to make better cards. So far, not so good. To answer the question about the festivals, but the problem with that is he probably wouldn't want, in all due respect, riffraff at his at his headquarters, his house, which is probably why he's the real reason why he's done it as he has. So if he opens it up in a festival sort of platform, it definitely won't be in his garden. It'll be somewhere else in Romford, Essex, or somewhere else. Would I go if he was to make it, say, 300 instead of 700? Again, it all depends on the card. If he had, say, the October 9th card out in, say, Stanley Park, which is, as you know, between Anfield and Goodison, yeah, fair enough. That would appeal to me. But in Eddie Hearn's back garden for 750 quid a ticket, no. Because I'm probably in the riffraff category, so you probably wouldn't want me there. So,
and you could argue, Ray, that you're going to see a better night of boxing on the October the 9th card at ringside than any of the matchroom fight camps. And it's quite ironic.
September.
Quite ironic what the strap line is for fight camp as well. What's the strap line? No easy fights.
No easy fights. Yeah, I mean,
get the trade description that's onto that.
Yeah. But I think one of the issues as well was the card was constantly changing. That's one thing. Like from week to week, we were looking at what ready to preview one of the fight camps, and we couldn't find a card. There was 2 different cards released.
Yeah, and one of them I remember Josh saying Ellie Scotty wasn't on. But what I would say to that is previously Eddie Hearn, if a fight fell through, he had a replacement like that. He either had a replacement fight or a replacement fight. For whatever reason, he wasn't able to do that. Whether that's because of the lack of crowds and he couldn't have the finances to put that in place. But I've got the feeling that fight camp's going to be a reoccurring feature. So maybe in future fight camps, he'll have those finances to make sure that there's going to be contingency fights. Because
Ray's already talking about it as a brand, so it will live on. It will definitely live on.
So my point is, though, there's lots of domestic fights out there that you can think, wow, that could have easily been put on together. So
do we not think that there's an element of some of the fights? I mean, like Joe Cordean has had a stretch out the ring. Obviously, Kanju had a stretch out the ring. There was all the talk of the Warrington fight. And I think there's been, and I do think there is some weight to it, that a lot of Matchroom stable, you've got your elite level people, your Dylan Whites, your Anthony Joshuas. Yeah. I get that. And they can sell a card. There's plenty of opponents. But I do think there's quite a lot of the Matchroom stable that, in fairness, are sort of in that in-between level. They're probably a bit above domestic level, but they're not quite at world level. And I feel like fight camps answered some of those questions. Like, I know you weren't a fan of the Bolotniks fight for Buatsi, Carl, but it did prove to be an acid test for him. He gassed.
Remember, Josh, he's got a lot of dates now throughout the world, and he keeps talking about taking British fighters, let's say, to America, and they're opening new territories all the time, such as Australia, Mexico. So there's going to be a lot of fight dates as we move forward. So I think the need for fight camp may diminish a little bit. Remember, we're coming off a pandemic, aren't we? So it's not normal landscape territory. When things open up again as normal, we travel, etc., etc. Eddie Hearn's going to have a lot of territories. We haven't even mentioned Italy, Spain, etc., where he's going to have a lot of fight nights. So I think when you talk about that second tier of boxers among Matchroom, I think the dates will be there for them.
I know it'll be there, but we obviously with the Sky deal ending DAZN starting, there's that couple of months where we've not really had fights in the UK. So a few of these fighters have probably gone from potentially fighting 3 times this year to maybe only 2 against you've done your camp and your rest. I do feel like the one positive thing that's come out of fight camp is, like, Buatsi answered a few questions. He's now ready for the next step. Same with Joe Cordina. And then obviously you've crowned 2 new world champions in Leigh Wood and Kid Galahad. I feel like, let's be honest, like Kid Galahad now, he'll go and headline a show in Sheffield. obviously depending on the Carnbrook thing, what happens with that. You know, Leigh Wood, there's a date there for him now at the City Ground. I do feel like there are a lot of matchroom fighters. It's proven a good thing. While the cards weren't the most easy to get excited about, I feel like it'll produce stuff off the back of it that, you know, I'll definitely be getting excited about.
Can I just touch on this festival idea? Because I just wanted to, like, I mean, it might be me completely dreaming, but, like, obviously, you know, you'll go to, like, let's take music, for example. You'll go to watch music in a stadium. And, of course, you'll bring, you know, there'll be music festivals in the summer. Can something similar not be done on that? Obviously, not on the same scale. You're not going to have, like, what you do at Glastonbury or something. But is there no reason why you couldn't have, like, 3 kind of stages or rings or whatever you want to call it, right? Sell them at 200 odd a ticket, whether that's with camping, without camping, or whatever, and just bring through, you know, a whole card of boxing where you've got different stages. You've obviously got your headline events. It could be a great way to show off amateur boxers, British boxers, you know, showcase boxing in general to a whole new market who will just, like, you know, and of course, I guess with boxing, the problem's always going to be, you know, maybe it would bring a few more people that are there for the wrong reasons and it could cause a lot of trouble. But beyond that,
there's a massive problem with that, Scott, though. There's a massive problem with that, Scott, though. So, you know, I think the art of being a promoter is a lot more difficult than what us fans think. There's a lot of logistics behind the scenes, and I think that's bordering on the impossible.
You reckon? I just think it'd be a great idea if you could pay £200 for a festival type thing.
Funding. How are you now all those to fight at the same time? If you've got 3 rings all going at the same time, that's like having all 3 weeks of fight camp happening on the same day.
Well, what I was going to finish there, Ben, what I was going to finish there is we were talking to Carl Greaves on our show, and he was telling us, even, let's just say till COVID times, the cost of getting people through testing is through the roof. You're going to have to do that 3 times over. You're going to need 3 times as many doctors, 3 times as many ambulances, 3 times as many ring girls, 3 times as many judges, obviously 3 times as many refs, all that times 3. Financially, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. You're going to have to need these promoters that won't even work together to all work together because one promoter can't financially do it. It's going to be a massive loss of.
And Ray, would it appeal to you boxing fans if you've got Joe Bloggs versus Ted Smith in that ring at the same time as Joe Bloggs versus someone in that ring?
Yeah,
it's fan wants to see all the boxing on the night, don't they?
You see, Scott's taking me back to my uni days where you would have something like DJ Carl Cox on this stage, and then, you know, Jamie Jones on that stage, and then another, and you could bounce between them. You can't really do that with boxing because, like, you know, you're watching Fowler Smith. I watched the first couple of rounds of that. All right, then I'll go and watch Ritson v Davis Jr. For the rematch. You go watch that for like rounds 2 and 3, and then by the time you get back to the other one, there's been a knockout in one of them, and you're rushing. It's just gonna.
I'll get that it wouldn't come. You know, it wouldn't quite work like that, but I don't know. I suppose I was just thinking the idea through top of my head and just thought. It'd be pretty good if it could work, but obviously, as you say, Ray, it's the issue with the promoters, the upfront cost. You'd have to find some significant sponsors, you know. And I guess my feeling was, could that bring in a new fan base? Could it bring more attention to the sport of boxing? But as you say, there's probably is too many problems. I accept that.
I suppose it could, because in the sense of, see, when I go and watch a boxing, I don't know about you guys, but I always go for the first fight. I've got some mates. I think we'll have some mates that literally come for the televised fights, and then I've got very few mates that are interested in boxing that come for the main fight. But most of us will go for the first fight. Now, what I'm going is if you have an extended card. So the first fight's usually about 6 o'clock, maybe 5:30. Yeah. I'm talking about your 4 rounders. It's usually someone making a debut. Why don't we not just say, okay, instead of that, I start at 5, it starts at 12, and then you can maybe get Scott like. Your amateur fights in there, or you may get other debutants. Because if you go back to where Josh was talking about a couple of years ago, there used to be Friday fight nights. I don't know if you remember that on Sky, and that was a good way. And then we had that one. What was that one that showed the young fighters on? It was on a Friday night as well on Sky.
Is it something like Next Gen, something like that?
Yeah, next gen. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So next gen and Friday Fight Night were like good examples of where you would show people going, up and coming prospects and that carry on. You could get them on, so you could do your amateurs for like 12 till 2, then do your next gen type prospects between like 2 and 4, and then get some more, and then you can just extend it, and you can just get it on until late midnight.
I mean,
exactly.
I know in America, in America, Golden Boy just signed an agreement with regional broadcasters for Thursday night fights, and they're going to showcase their young talent on regional broadcasters around America. And another point is, I think terrestrial TV's got a role to play with building profiles. So I'd encourage Channel 5 to continue with their efforts in boxing, and maybe to get some let's say
BBC's going with the zone, isn't it? BBC's doing something with the zone.
I think that's a great idea, Adu, to build profile.
Mick Hennessy's obviously got his September 10th card with Eggins and top in the bill, and then I think he's also announced another 2 dates before Christmas.
Yeah,
and then we can all agree it's going to be interesting and fascinating times for British boxing.
And the zone helps with that, doesn't it? Because you're just going to pay a one-off monthly fee. If you fancy, right, I've got an hour spare, let's just watch an amateur fight, even if you're not watching it, live, and you're watching something that was on at the weekend. I imagine they're going to have playback features as well. It gives the most important thing is it gives the amateur scene that door, doesn't it? At the end of the day,
that publicity. I agree.
Well, I think obviously that's what DAZN are doing more and more behind the scenes. Obviously, Ray said it earlier. I'm also a big fan of. I spend hours watching stuff like that. But I think obviously Eddie Hearn's talked about that with Matchroom Media, that they're going to be doing more interviews with fighters, filming in camp. So as obviously it builds the narrative, which is what fight fans, we want to see it, don't we? You want to get to know them. It helps you support them, doesn't it? Like at the end of the day, if you know their background, it's easier to get on board. So I do think we're going to see more of that. I just think it's, as we saw with the DAZN broadcast, I mean, the one low point for me, I don't know if I'm just being a bit anal about it, but I don't know what you guys thought, but some of the camera angles for me made me feel like I was almost sick. Like, when they panned to the corners and it was like really close in, but the way it moved, it was, I've seen a bit on social media online, so I know I wasn't the only one. You guys were all looking at me like I've lost my head.
It went on the Sky Sports level, was it? Let's put it that way.
No, I didn't think so. With that element of it, I think there's a lot of changes that will come and it'll be an improvement. But with the camera angles, I thought Sky had it nailed on, to be honest. And like I say, it did leave me feeling seasick, some of the swaps.
One thing they did get right, though, is Mike Costello, wasn't it?
100%. I also got to say, massive shout out to Darren Barker and Chris Lloyd as well.
Yeah.
With them so far, I thought they were absolutely brilliant.
I'm not a big Darren Barker fan. I think he called a lot of stuff wrong, like even punches. Like at the end of rounds, when they do the review of the punches that had been in the round before, and he was more often than not calling the wrong punch. I think it saw a lot of people getting exposed, like Andy Leigh. I've been a massive fan of.
Yeah,
he in the Leigh Wood fight, he was off a bit. Tony Bellew was off a bit. There was quite a few, but Mike Costello brings that calming influence. I think it's early days. I think Maya Jama's getting some criticism as well, which perhaps isn't fair. She's only brought there just to ask questions. She doesn't need to be the boxing's equivalent of Alex Scott, does she?
She doesn't, but she did. I mean, I agree with you, and I defended. Me and Ben were sat watching him, and it was brought up in the room, and I sort of defended her, and then in the next breath, she mispronounced DAZN. So while she hasn't got to be a boxing expert, like I did think, oh come on, mate, like
who's paying? Yeah.
Is that not because let's face it.
I don't think she'll hang around. I think Laura Woods will get that slot.
Laura Woods was brilliant on
brilliant,
and she was trending on Twitter afterwards, and sort of everybody was saying what a noticeable improvement it was. I mean, I do think you've got to give Maya Jama time, but some of the criticism was savage, but some of it I did think, in fairness, it was. It's
hard though, isn't it? When let's face it, we know she's not like the biggest boxing fan. She's been brought in to do the presenter role. It is a hard one, and she, if it's something they want to stick with, they need to give her time and probably take the spotlight off her a little bit as well. I mean, obviously, we all know she's a great presenter, but you know, she has got to go maybe do the homework a bit. And
yeah, a bit like you in your predictions, Scott. A bit like you in your predictions. You need to do a bit of homework and let's take the spotlight off him a little bit. Take the pressure off.
Well, that's the real reason I haven't been on for 3 weeks. Josh and Ben said, let's take the focus off of you, mate. You have a rest, and hopefully everyone's forgot about it. But Carl, mate, you definitely haven't.
I'm glad you feel better for it, though, Scott.
I do. I feel rested. I'll come back with a more correct prediction next fight.
Don't make promises you can't keep, but we'll see.
Well, I think what we'll have to do for the rematch when it gets announced is just leave you pair on a stream, and us three can just sit back with the popcorn.
Yeah, we'll do our own stream. Let these two just do one. Yeah, we'll do actually one of our boxing.
Maybe some promoter will see mine and Carl's predictions, and who knows? Maybe we'll all get flown out to America. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, it's definitely 1-0 to me, Scott. Let's put it that way.
You can claim it in personal, but I agreed with you. I thought Leigh would have edged it, so I'm not having 1-0 on channels.
Hold on a minute.
Go on.
Who mentioned anything about channels in between me and Scott a minute ago?
Yeah,
sorry that you wasn't in the limelight, Josh. Sorry. Yeah, come in, Josh. Come in.
Cheers, Carl. Thank God.
To be fair, I can defend Josh on one thing. He got every prediction of Fight Camp correct.
Not just a pretty face. What can I say?
Well, you're not that, but I did.
So, Ben, what did me and Ray get wrong then?
I didn't see all your predictions. I've seen all Josh's though, so I can't.
You might want to go back and have a look then.
Did you get them all right as well?
I think we did, Ray, didn't we?
Yeah.
I can't remember any that we got wrong.
Well, I do keep saying that it was predictable cards, and that was the downside for me.
And there was only one which
don't take too big a bow for getting them predictions right, because there's hardly.
What did you guys just think of Michael McKinson on the weekend? So it's a bit random. I just coming to me.
No. It's because we've had a debate a couple of times on Michael McKinson. I think it's he's a very skillful fighter. He's a very tricky fighter. His output isn't great though, and when he steps up the levels, he is going to get found out. I know he goes on about how before his last fight he had put 3 people down in the first round, and he fought some good fighters as well. But I think he's good for the level he's at now, and that's a level he belongs at. I don't think he can go a level above that.
Yeah, he's making a lot of noise, isn't he? He's making a lot of. He backs himself. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's confident.
Yeah, he's making a lot of noise, calling out a lot of people, which I suggest you might want to slow down a little bit.
100%.
A good fight for him would be the Spanish welterweight. That's the European champion, Laragua, I think he's called. He stopped a few British lads recently. He beat Frankie Gavin. Like he probably did a real job on Frankie Gavin a couple of years ago. So he would be a good fight because he's relentless. So he would make Mickinson work. So that would be a really interesting fight.
Yeah, that was the one thing. I mean, we sort of mentioned it in our review of it, but I did think, you wanted to see him go through the gears a bit more because his opponent was sort of there for the taking. And I thought that fight was that he should have definitely got a stoppage. He's talking about his own power. His record doesn't suggest he's got power, and I think he sort of proved that to us on Saturday.
Yeah,
night. Really should have.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, well, let's wrap it up there. I mean, obviously we've got a great. Is it next week? I mean, I don't even know, but obviously we've got the big fight of Jake Paul coming up, Tommy Fury coming up. Great boxing events coming up. But all truthfulness, at least we've got some good fights coming in October, haven't we? So
and
there'll be some
September
previews and stuff there, lads. I'm sure we'll do plenty more.
We've got Pacquiao soon.
Thanks for coming on. Obviously, I don't know. Do you guys want to introduce your channel again? It feels odd because we always seem to be on each other's now, but we'll let you have the niceties of doing it if you want.
Do you want to do it, Ray, or do you want me to do it?
You do it. You do it. I did it.
Okay, so if you want to come on a serious boxing channel, Last Bell Boxing's on Thursday night at 9 p.m. We also do pre-recorded interviews. We've got the Head of Sport for Channel 5 coming on at some point in the next couple of weeks. Roberto Diaz is due to come on again for a third time, the matchmaker from Golden Boy. All joking aside, Between the Ropes is a great channel. I know we have this to and fro in, but, you know, it's all banter, boys, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Last Bell Boxing, live show, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Check the channel out. Cheers, boys.
Be there or be square.
Cheers,
Right,
guys.
and we'll see you on the next
lads.
one.
No problem.
Cheers.
Thanks, lads.